Okay, so still congested, still getting past this. I should be taking Mucinex. Mariah's been screaming at me about not taking it, so I guess I should take it. Uh, I still have not taken Mucinex yet. Yeah. Anyway, so I hit up Mariah before this, because I asked her, I was like, hey, do you mind if I make a video about this topic, right? Because, well, when it comes to things that involve people besides myself, I don't usually just kind of jump the gun and go into it, right? Because what I'm basically doing is I'm taking somebody else and I'm putting them on display to a degree. And while I did feel like this was an important topic and one that I thought was worth making a video on, it was important to make sure that she was comfortable with it. And she said, yeah. She's like, I don't mind it. Go ahead and go for it. And so in this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about coping with a panic attack. Not so much in the sense of what it's like as a person with anxiety coping with a panic attack, because I don't have anxiety. And in all honesty, that'd be something that Mariah would have to come on here and talk to you guys about if she chose to. What I want to talk about is coping with a panic attack as someone who's dating someone with anxiety. Because I will be honest with you guys, like it was one thing to read about it, right? Like it was one thing to like read about it or watch YouTube videos about it, because that's what I had to do, right? Like I told you guys, before that when Mariah and I started dating seriously, that one of the things that I needed to do was like research anxiety, how it works, how it can be triggered, basically learn as much about that as I possibly can so that I can understand it as well as I can, and kind of know what to expect in these circumstances. But despite all the reading that I'd done and all the videos I'd seen, there was nothing like seeing it. And I'd be telling you guys a bold-faced lie if I said it did not scare the hell out of me. Because when it happened, she just started breathing like super, super fast. And at first it was almost like shallow breathing, right? Like she was suffocating, like her lungs were filling up or something like that. And I was talking to her at the time, and the contents and the details as to what set the panic attack off are outside the scope of this video. But the fact is that as she started having it, I didn't realize what was going on. And it wasn't until, I started listening to her and I asked her, I was like, well, I'm gonna ask you a question. She said, okay. I said, are you having a panic attack? And she said, yes. And my first thought was, okay. Because under normal circumstances, here's how I function. If something pops off and it's a circumstance that I'm not familiar with, and it creates a heightened sense of alert, like for an instant, there we go. For an instant, I will panic. And then as soon as that panic is done, like I'll set in and say, okay, like what do we need to do? And I was, in what seemed like, it was almost like watching a film reel in my mind, right? Like everything that I had read. And so my first realization was, okay, she needs to slow her breathing. And so what I did is I said, okay, like I want you to breathe in and breathe out. I was like, breathe just like me. And I would take a really, really deep breath, and then I would take time to exhale. And as she started doing that, then she sort of began to calm down. And this is one of the most interesting things I've ever heard of. With Mariah having anxiety, she's basically developed systems for herself, in terms of what she's been taught and how people have sort of given her knowledge on how to cope with these things. And what she does is she has a system for basically like getting her bearings on her surroundings, right? Because the way that she described it is a panic attack was like the feeling that she was falling, right? Like you guys ever have one of those dreams where like you feel like you're falling in your dream and you're like falling for eternity? Like she described it as that kind of a feeling. And so what she needed was to basically regain her bearings. And so she has this amazing system, right? Like it's five things you can see. I guess 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And she would go through it. And literally she's like, okay, like 5 things I can see. And she would just say, like, she would just run off 5 things. And then and she would go through that. And what it would do is it would basically like calm her down. And to me, it was so intriguing because in reality, like while it was scary, it was also important because for her to open up in that way to me was like to see her in that way. I think it really brought us together because that's an exceedingly vulnerable position to be in. To show somebody when you go through something like a panic attack, all the steps that you take, all those different things, and in my mind, the only thing that really mattered was to basically get her calm. And the only thing that really mattered was to basically kind of bring her back so that she could, reach a state of relaxation, basically, like she could get out of this panic attack, and it's I think that's an important thing. And so then I started, once she was able to calm down, then I started asking her like, hey, how does all this work, and how does it tie into everything? And she kind of gave me this full-on explanation of it. But in truth, I think it's kind of contextual, because of the fact that Mariah had been through this before, and because of the fact that she has a system to work with, I was really kind of able to just sort of follow her lead, right? And just kind of help her, along the way and so on, as opposed to like totally taking over things. But then I asked her, I was like, what things help you? Like what can I do that would help you whenever you have a panic attack? And it was things like reassure me that everything will be okay. Like that was a big one. Don't leave me. Like stay with me. Like do not leave my side. Like stay with me. Like hold me. Different things like that. Kind of a way to basically, from what I gather, it's a way to basically say, hey, look, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be okay. And I'm not going anywhere. Like that kind of reassurance seemed to really just sort of bring her back. And so if you're someone who's dating a person with anxiety and they experience a panic attack, while I wouldn't say this is an absolute standard, because again, like one of the things I've learned about anxiety is that different people experience it different ways. And I have to believe panic attacks are the same way, right? Like people with anxiety, experience panic attacks in different ways based on person to person. But I'd like to believe this is some kind of a, some way that can sort of help you, at the very least give you like a guide, kind of a way to go forward in terms of helping somebody with anxiety or with somebody who has a panic attack. I'd read things like giving somebody a kiss on the forehead helps, and Mariah was like, yes, that helps, different things along those lines. But the important thing to do here, and this is probably the single most important thing to do, is that once the panic attack passes, ask questions, because it's intriguing, because I feel like a lot of people have this tendency to just sort of assume they know, right? Like I read it online somewhere, therefore it works. And while that's not the worst policy to have, if you're dating somebody who has anxiety and they have a panic attack, why would you not ask them what helps to calm you down? Now, it may be that they don't know, right? Like maybe they haven't really explored their own anxiety, and maybe they haven't really investigated their own system for how to like cope with a panic attack, in which case that kind of opens the door for the two of you to figure it out together. But to me, the best thing you can do is to ask and say, like, when you have a panic attack, what can I do to help you through it? And they'll usually give you an answer, right? Like Mariah essentially told me everything I need to know, and in helping her get past the panic attack and to help her cope with it, and so in future instances, like I essentially know exactly what to do to help her get through it. But it was a very important experience for our relationship, because it really brought us closer together. And it was a very important experience for our relationship because it allowed me to see her in her most vulnerable position. And I think it's really solidified us more so than really anything before. But I really want to make this video, kind of throw it out there, share it with you guys. For anybody out there who's dating anybody who has anxiety, take some cues. And again, the most important thing you can do is ask. Like if sit down with them. If you're dating them and you haven't done it yet, sit down. Like when this video's done, don't turn it off now. But when this video's done, like go to them and just say, hey, look, I want to talk to you about panic attacks, and I want to talk to you about like how I can, like what I can do to help you when you go through those panic attacks. There's a couple reasons, again, because it'll help you kind of navigate those waters, but two, because one of the things that Mariah told me is that for her it meant a lot. Like it meant a lot, like for me to sit down and ask the question, like, how can I help you? Like what can I do to help you get past this? Because what it does is it shows that one, you care, and two, like you want to grow closer to them, and you want to help them get past it, right? Because I could not envision a circumstance where Mariah goes through a panic attack and it's like, okay, I'll be downstairs playing Destiny 2, like when you're done. Like come and get me when your panic attack is finished. What kind of, that's terrible. Like that's I cannot envision a circumstance where I would ever do, that'd be the worst thing you can possibly do. Like, oh man, you're having a panic attack. Okay, let me know when it's done, right? Like, it's not a homework assignment. It's not like she's studying for a test, like, hey, okay, you're studying for your test. Let me know when you're finished and we'll go grab dinner. Like, that's a terrible idea. Dating somebody who has anxiety opens the door for you to grow closer in terms of understanding their anxiety, and talking to them about panic attacks, even if it may be an uncomfortable conversation, I think is one you need to have, because they can strike from what I gather at any time. And again, like it's all predicated based on the person's individual experiences and how they view things. But I won't go too in depth into it. I'll simply say that Mariah's had panic attacks that have struck from the most unlikely situations. And because of that, like, I need to be able to know how to react regardless of where we're at or what we're doing in a way that will help her get past it. And will make her feel like she's not a burden, will make her feel like she's not getting in the way, because she never is. I mean, she's never a burden, she's never getting in the way, she's never a pain in the ass, she's my girlfriend, you know, she's the one I'm gonna marry one day. So, you know, helping her get past these panic attacks in a way that basically assures her, like, this is not an inconvenience. Like, this is a part of you. This is a part of what it means to date you and to eventually marry you one day. And it's something that, like, we need to be able to cope with together. So again, like, have that conversation with the person that you're with, or a family member, a brother or a sister, like your mom or dad. Have that conversation. You know, be the person that they feel comfortable having with them when this happens, or the person they call, the person that can kind of talk them down and help bring them back. Be that person, you know, be their Superman, as we talked about in a previous video, or I guess Superwoman, if you're a woman dating a guy with anxiety. So I guess you don't want to be a Superman, right? Like, I am a woman, and when I become Superman, I develop male features. That would be horrifying. Like, imagine that, like a woman, it's like the Incredible Hulk, right? Like a woman's like, all right, I'm a woman, you know, and then like, I turn into Superman, like she turns into a dude. I would be like, okay, so like, this is a problem. Like, I mean, I don't know. My mind wanders. Like, I go on tangents. Anyway, yes. So that's the topic of the video. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. And again, you know, I'm kind of looking to you guys to sort of take the lead here and say, hey, look, like, go talk to your loved ones. You know, I think it's an important conversation to have. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. And yeah, I feel like videos are incomplete if I don't say yeah, right? Like, it's a thing. Like, it's a thing. It's like the hat, you know, and like, it's a thing that I have to do, because if I don't, like, people complain. It's like, I made a video where I didn't have a hat on and people are just like, you are not Rob. It's like when Superman puts glasses on and becomes Clark Kent, which I never understood. You know, let me tell you something. If I were walking through Metropolis, this is the nature of Rob, I ramble. When it comes to the nature, like, Metropolis, if I'm walking around that city and like, and I see like Clark Kent walking around, I'm gonna be like, I know you're Superman. And he's gonna be like, oh no, I'm not, I'm Clark Kent. It's like, take off your glasses. And it's like, oh man, like my secret, like, look at this, man, take off my glasses and my hat. You guys don't even know who I am anymore. I'm PewDiePie now. Like, I never understood that line of logic. I never really grasped that. Anyway, we're gonna bring this video to an end. I need to stop rambling, and I will catch you all later. Peace.